Welcome to the Family Office Success Podcast, where we explore the strategies, the insights, and the best practices that help families and their advisors build and manage successful family offices. I am your host, Christi Van Rite, and each episode, we dive into the key elements of running a family office. Whether you're a family looking to structure your advisory team for long-term success, or you're a professional managing the complexities of a multi-generational enterprise. From financial oversight and operational efficiency to selecting the right advisors and creating a lasting legacy, this podcast is here to provide practical guidance and expert perspectives. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the Family Office Success Podcast, where we talk all things family office. Today, we're having a conversation with Joey Quigley from Christie's Auction House, and this is part of a series of conversations that we are having around auction houses to help make it more familiar for families that are out there, help you know a little bit what the differences are. Who do you call? Is it a regional? Is it a worldwide firm? Who really can help best serve you? Because ultimately that serves both you, the family, just as much as it serves the auction house when you call them. And so we're bringing this series to you to help make this auction house concept a tangible place for you to go to learn about auction houses and make it approachable. So, Joey, thank you very much for joining us today. I very much appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about what you do at Christie's. Love the name, by the way. So, thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm a senior vice president at Christie's in our Trust Estates and Appraisals department. I've been with the firm for about 10 years now. I actually walked in the door in September of 2015. I'm a little bit of a career changer. So prior to that, I was a classical musician. I have a degree in voice. I was an opera singer. Through that process, determined that what I really loved was sort of the business of the arts and the art world. And came to meet two incredible collectors who were members of a board of an organization that I worked for. And they were the first collectors I had ever met. And they were also some of my favorite people. And when I met them, I didn't realize that collecting was a thing that people could do. I thought that was just the purview of museums. I was living in Miami at the time, and they really encouraged me to kind of go out to things like Art Basel Miami Beach and various other things, galleries. And they also gave me my first Christie's sale catalog, which sort of blew my mind and made me realize this is what I wanted to do. So I went back to school. Christie's had at the time a master's program called Christie's Education. And that's through that program I started working at Christie's. I started my internship and then have sort of been there with a brief hiatus for the last 10 years. So.
Okay. That's an incredible background coming from classrooms. That's amazing. And I love that you sort of fell into it at some point. That's pretty cool. So tell us a little bit about, Christie's is a big name. I think even if you have no idea what an auction house is or really what it does, you've probably heard of Christie's, right? It's kind of a big name. So tell us a little bit about what Christie's does. Where are you located? What markets are you in? Give us just a little bit of background on Christie's itself.
Sure. Yes. Christie's is a global auction house. It was founded by the auctioneer James Christie in London in 1766, 10 years before America started. So it's certainly one of the oldest companies in America currently. We have sale rooms across the globe. And by sale rooms, I mean literally a rostrum where an auctioneer can get in and bring a hammer and sell property. So we have those major sale rooms in New York, where I am right now. That's where I'm based. In London, our kind of historic home. In Paris, in Hong Kong, in Geneva. And then we have regional offices all across the globe in many different sales sites. So anywhere that you can really think that there would be some clients of ours, we probably have an office and a regional representative. We are in the business of selling basically the world's most important things. There are many different categories that falls into, whether that's fine art. So you think of something as far back as old master paintings, all the way to impressionist and modern art to contemporary art. But then in addition to that, we sell antiquities, ancient Greco-Roman things. We sell Chinese works of art from the early Chinese dynasties. We sell luxury things. So we have collections of jewelry that we bring to market. We have watches and handbags and wine. We've just recently acquired a luxury car auctioneer, David Gooding and Company. So now that's part of our portfolio as well. I'm very excited about that as a new service that we can offer our clients. So our business is really bringing these things to market, selling these incredible works of art and luxury objects. And through that, we have plenty of services that are adjacent to that we can use to help our clients, whether that be appraisal services, which could be used for a variety of things like insurance or estate tax appraisals or things like that. We also do art financing. So people that need some liquidity based on their collections but might not be ready to sell yet, we can unlock some of that with our art financing. And then we have a very robust private sales channel as well, in addition to the auction part of that, where we transact not sort of on an open auction stage, but really one-on-one between buyer and seller. It's a more confidential transaction. It can be a quicker transaction than an auction. And that channel has grown dramatically. It was up year over year, up 40%, a big growth part of our business as well. So I hope that gives a broad overview, but please let me know if you have questions about any specific part. You can always stop me too if I'm rambling on too much.
No, that's great. I think that's a really good broad overview of what Christie's does. You and I have talked before, and we've talked about these different services that you can get through several of the auction houses. Just as you mentioned, Christie's does, valuations for insurance and estate purposes and all of those kinds of things. So I want to dig into that just a little bit more, because a lot of our families have estates with collections, whether they realize it or not, maybe. What is the difference between like a formal valuation that you would do for a family versus sort of a kind of going through and inventorying and maybe getting to a place to help the family understand what they have?
Yeah, so I think certainly an inventory is different from an appraisal, because inventories don't usually have, or they don't have to have, a sort of number figure, a dollar figure attached to each work of art or each item on the inventory.
Sure.
So inventory is a great way to start. And certainly for us, if we get a call from a client who says, I really need an insurance appraisal for my residence in Palm Beach, one of the first questions is, do you have any sort of Excel listing, an inventory report, any images, previous appraisals, anything like that? I think as best practices, we encourage all of our clients to sort of get regular appraisals. Markets for luxury objects, for works of art, for specific artists change dramatically over the period of probably about 5 years. Some hold steady, some go up dramatically, some, let's hope not yours, but some go down.
Right.
But it's important to really keep that sort of refreshed, because if you don't really know the current value of what you hold, it's very hard to make the appropriate decisions if you're making decisions financially, whether that's how much do I insure this for, or oh, wow, I bought this for $50,000 and now it's worth $250,000.
Right.
Should we consider doing something about that? Or, God forbid someone passes and you're the executor for an estate and you need to start to get a handle on that. If you have a previous appraisal in the last 5 years, it really helps from a financial planning standpoint, have your ducks in order and proceed with in a much smoother basis. So we do encourage people, before any of these events take place, it's a good idea to sort of get figures in place. So that's what an appraisal is, really a single figure. That single figure is used for different purposes. There's, like I said, there are financial planning appraisals, there are insurance appraisals, there are estate and gift tax appraisals, there are loan collateral appraisals for people that are looking to get a loan on their collection. All of these have different figures and different reasons for these figures. And so knowing what you need as a first step, and then getting it early and making sure you have it in hand just for a rainy day is always good. And we're happy to provide advice around that and what you might need and that. So always feel free to reach out. Yeah.
So really, if a family has a collection, thinks they have a collection, I'm guessing if Christie's is on their mind, they probably realize they have a collection, but reaching out and having a conversation rather about here's what we're trying to do, here's the outcome we're trying to get to, really does help you back into what is the most beneficial thing that you can help the family with.
Yeah. I had an old manager many years ago who said, if you can measure it, you can manage it. And I think that is sort of true around collections as well. Oftentimes, you may have a sophisticated financial advisory around the client that's managing their portfolios, their real estate holdings, their private businesses. And then there's the art collection, which is sort of off on its own and just sort of forgotten about. It is also part of the entire sort of asset package that a client might have. And so it's appropriate, I think, to treat it with the same sort of level of professional respect and make sure that it's included in those conversations. Because for some people, it can actually be the biggest asset that they have. So
absolutely.
It's an interesting part. So whenever I speak with people in financial institutions, I like to say, have you considered the art portfolio as part of the overall portfolio? And frequently people say, oh, well, I know that they have art, but I don't really know the value of it. So it's a good first step.
So what things, you kind of mentioned a list of a few of these services earlier, but what are the kinds of things that, other than art, and now that you have the car, you can do vintage cars, what are some of the other things that you tend to see run through Christie's, generally speaking?
As I said before, the fine art categories are certainly a big part of the business. And I think the part of the business that most people think about when they think about Christie's. So that, again, all the way from old masters to contemporary. But we see more and more this luxury category as not only a very much expanding part of our business, but also a really great entry point for new buyers. Sort of the younger buyers are really entering through, let's say, whether it be the handbags department or the wine department or the watches department, or maybe a jewelry, you need a Christmas present or something like that. Some of them are at lower levels of entry. So starting from $1,000, maybe $5,000, we sell things in that range. Then we sell the incredible, tens of carats of diamonds for millions of dollars. So it really scales up, but that's a really great entry point for our clients. We also have sort of these early level entry points in the fine art category as well, whether that be maybe an old master drawing sale where, these are works on paper, they're smaller, they're a little bit more fragile. It's a nice entry point. So I do think that we can be the victim of our own headlines at some point. We have some incredible headlines. As you might know, we sold the amazing Leonardo da Vinci painting for $450 million. It was blanketed out across every bit of news media that there was.
As it should have been.
As it should have been. It was an incredible result, the most valuable work of art ever sold. But not everyone has a $450 million Leonardo da Vinci painting. Many people, though, have a jewelry collection or a watch collection or a car collection.
Absolutely.
And I would love to get across that Christie's is happy to help with those as well. And if we cannot help, I am also passionate just about being your first call and showing you where you can go, because we have a lot of friends all across the industry. We work on estates all the time where, 80% of the estate will be for Christie's, but then there's 20% of the estate that is not really for us. And we have partners that we can use to help figure out how to liquidate those things as well.
So it doesn't necessarily have to run through Christie's. You're still available to be a call and then point somebody in the right direction. If that's where they need to go.
Absolutely. We have specialists across all of these different categories. So whether your client has a collection of silver and you say, give me a call, and you can say, is this set of silver, is this for Christie's or is this for someone else? And then our specialist would be able to say, not for us, but maybe, consider these places in Palm Beach or Chicago or whatever. And they would be able to give good recommendations around that. Also giving recommendations for your clients that have collections around how best to handle the property that they have, how best to frame things or store things, or God forbid, let's say someone puts a hand through a painting, how best to fix that and conserve that. We have relationships across the nation and across the globe with conservators, with storage companies and shippers. And so happy to kind of help advise on that. Our passion is for the objects and preserving these things so they can be around, and we can sell them many times over many generations. So we want them to be around. But no, our specialists are all independent of the market, incredibly passionate people. It's one of my favorite things about the business. It's why I have also a podcast. I don't know if I can plug my podcast on your podcast, but
Absolutely.
So for those listening, my co-host Joanna Ostrom and I have a podcast called Fair Market Value, Christie's Art Market Insights, where we interview some of our specialists and wonderful members of the senior team at Christie's. Sort of an interview just like this. So if you're interested, pop on over to that.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for mentioning it. And we will also post a link in the show notes if anybody is looking for a direct connection to that podcast. So let's talk about sort of this life cycle of consigning with a major auction house, whether that's Christie's or another one. Just sort of, what does this life cycle look like?
Sure. Yeah. It's a pretty long cycle. I'm lucky in the Trust and Estates department. We get to see it from the very beginning all the way to the very end. So, the first thing that happens is we will get a call from, say, an advisor, say a client themselves, and say, we're looking to sell this work of art. And so our first question is always, do you have images of the work of art? Do you have details about the work of art? Who painted it? How big is it? What's the medium? Things like that. Yeah. And then the next question is, can we value this from the photographs that are provided, or do we really need to go see it in person? And you'd be surprised. There's many things that can be valued from photographs now. The quality of photographs has gotten such, even with your iPhone, that you can tell many things through that. But
that crazy.
As things get further up and up and up in value, the really specific condition of these things really informs their specific estimating. Okay. So we may need to see the works in person. So we might ask, where are these located? Are these in storage, et cetera, et cetera? So once we kind of have a handle around the work of art or the collection, we'll put together what we call a selection for sale, which is a little document that has each work in the collection fully illustrated with all of the cataloging as we would have it in the auction. But each work has an estimate on it. So we can spend a little bit of time on estimates if you'd like, but an estimate would be, for example, $100,000 to $200,000. And that's a pretty big range. And an estimate is different than, let's say, an insurance figure, which would be maybe for the same painting would be $300,000. So the estimate is really just a marketing tool that informs when these things come up to market, what is the estimate that's put on these historically? How does this interact with those? And if you put an estimate that's way too high on something, you may have no bidders at all. If you put an estimate that's conservative and maybe a bit lower than it should be, you actually end up attracting a lot of people to kind of come in because people love a bargain and people think they may be getting a deal. And so the more people that you have on a specific lot, on a specific object, generally the better it does, because people get hooked in and they start competing. There's an emotional attachment. I don't know if you've bid before, Christy, but there's a sort of crazy emotional thing that happens when you start bidding. And sometimes people, they just don't want to stop.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the estimating strategy. So we'll provide a selection for sale with some of those estimates. And then we'll also share what sales in our sale calendar, this work of art, this decorative object, let's say it's a chair or a nice table, what sale in our sale calendar would be best for. And that'll have a date and have a deadline and everything like that. Okay. And then once you review that and approve that, then we can go ahead and create a contract. Every single contract we do is going to be a little bit different because our seller's terms are based off the volume and value of any given consignment. So the more that you can sign, or the more valuable it is that you can sign, the more preferential terms we can offer because we have a little bit more room to play with. So that's an important part of the process, is figuring out exactly what you're going to sign the contract. And then we bring the works here to Christie's. We have a team that's entirely dedicated to art transport, to shipping, and we work with them to source quotes and figure out how to get things from various locations. Some very tricky locations I have gotten things from. Sometimes you have to remove windows of high-rise buildings and crane things out. But let's hope for whoever is listening to this, you don't have to deal with that. But that's something that we've certainly done.
But it's been done.
It has been done.
Wow.
We sold a sculpture by the artist Deborah Butterworth, who does these large-scale bronze horses. and one was on the very top of an apartment building in Georgia. And the apartment building had, since the work had been brought in, had been built up around it. So there was no way to get it out but to crane it from like the 40th floor. And we called it Operation Pegasus. It was a flying horse that was flying down.
It was literally flying.
Literally.
Wow.
Yes. So we can do that for you. Anyway, once the things are shipped to Christie's sale rooms, they get cataloged by our specialists who go over them, go over the full research, make sure from a compliance standpoint, everything looks good, and then make sure that everything is photographed properly, that we have the catalog entry right, puts it up on the website or in the sale catalog in time for the sale. And then there's a preview here at Christie's for most things. Some online sales don't have previews, but most do. Most live sales have previews, so people can come and just look at everything that's on view. It's one of my favorite parts about the job, that and the colleagues that I work for, the two best things about the job. You can go downstairs to our galleries, and there's a different exhibition on almost every week, and they can be dramatically different from each other. And we're talking hundreds of things at a time, and that cycles through every week, and you can see some more. We just had Asia Week, and then right after Asia Week, we had our mid-season contemporary art sale. So that was just up. We had the sale yesterday. It's amazing to see. And then I think next up is our Prince sale, Prince in Multiple sale. So there are amazing things that are cycling through here. People can come. It's free of charge. Anyone can walk in. So if you're near any of our sale rooms, check it out. There may be an exhibition on view. It's a free museum, basically, where everything is for sale.
That's so fun.
Very cool. And then everything in the exhibition will have a lot card. So a card right next to it that says what lot number it is and what its estimate is. And if you want to bid on it, you can register to bid. And then comes the auction day, and that work of art comes up, and the auctioneer, I'm an auctioneer myself, will have all of their interest in their auctioneer's book, and will take bids from in the room and online and for colleagues on the telephone, and then bring the hammer down, and the lot will sell at that level. And then we'll go to a new buyer once they pay out proceeds, and then we pay to our clients. So that's the whole life cycle.
That is fascinating. So are the auctions, are they only in person? Or are they also online? And how many auctions a week are you doing? Does it average about one a week, or?
So auctions can either be live auctions or online auctions. And that really, the distinction is only about how the bidding happens. So online only auctions don't have an auctioneer, but it's sort of more like, I don't know if I can say eBay, but eBay, where each of the lots are closing at a specific time, and you click and you can see how many bids are happening. For the live auctions, there is an auctioneer in a podium, in a room, and there are also bids coming in from online, because people can watch those sales on the computer. They can watch it on
it live.
App. You can watch it and bid live on the app. You can do all of that. Yeah. So our auction season, which has been sort of handed down to us through generations. It's one of these historic things. It's happened for decades, where this sale is at this time and this sale is at this time. It's sort of convening moments for people. But generally our season is about March-ish. February, March is when it'll start with Asia Week, usually kicks off our sales. That goes all the way through probably June and concludes probably with our luxury sales in June. And then we'll have a little bit of hiatus. There may be some online sales in July. August is usually pretty quiet. But then we start back up again in September and go all the way through December. And in that period, there's about an auction a week. Some weeks there are 4 auctions in any given week. Some have live auctions, and then alongside them, there are maybe 2 or 3 online sales. Sometimes we sell very large collections that the whole week might just be one person's collection. And that's very exciting. We had a few years ago, we sold the collection of Elton John, and that was fun. And that was, I think, about 7 sales. There were a lot of sales all in one week. He had many incredible things, from jewelry to costumes he was in a wonderful photography collection. So we had some great photographs for sale, some great artworks too. And a Bentley that he drove in one of his music videos that ended up doing very well. That was in our galleries too.
I bet it did. Yeah.
It did well. It did very well. Yes.
That is so fascinating. So if someone is curious, if they are consignment curious, auction curious, it sounds like there needs to be a little bit of forethought that goes into making the phone call. Maybe you don't make the phone call right when you need to have,
Exactly.
liquidate, or right when you're ready to move on from this object or these objects. So walk us through, if someone is thinking about, maybe they have a collection, maybe they're looking to get not necessarily an appraisal, but kind of an inventory to then potentially have Christie's auction it at some point in the future. Walk us through kind of that timing and what people should think about going into that conversation from a timeline perspective.
A great question. And people don't need to have an inventory listing for us to actually assist. It just makes the process easier. Sometimes if a client has a very large collection and no inventory, we will go to the residence and figure it out and make a listing ourselves on their behalf. But usually people will share with us, a single object. You'll want to get that photograph yourself if you're not in constant contact with the work. Maybe the soonest time that you can get there to see it, to get a photograph of the signature to, just as many photographs as you can take of it, nice photographs on your iPhone. And then any details you have on the work is great to share. So like I said, in previous appraisals, maybe an inventory listing, maybe an insurance, that we frequently get these sort of printouts from, let's say, a Chubb that has an itemization of all of the different things. And we can share too. So, so in terms of timeline, it does take, let's say a few weeks to a month to prepare that listing that we talked about, that select for sale, depending on how many things are included in it, and to figure out, what sales are best. And especially it gets more and more complicated the more different categories are looked. So if your client has a collection of fine art, but then also a great collection of decorative arts and furniture and maybe porcelain and silver, there's a bunch of different things that go into that. So it's not as straightforward as just a single object. So think about it this way. The more categories and the more objects, the more time it will take to get everything all together. But if it's just a single thing, a single category, that can happen relatively quickly. And then, depending on when you approach us, we can let you know when the next available sale is. Our big sales for modern and contemporary are in May and November. And those catalogs generally close, around mid-April and mid-October, so around a couple weeks from now. So the teams are currently at the very end of their business getting cycle and getting the last few things into the sale before ultimately we have to say no more, because we need to publish these things and have them here for the exhibition. So if that informs you a little bit of that. So, and that's very category specific. So that's what I talked about is just the impressionist and modern and contemporary things. If you have jewelry, it's a different timing altogether, and so on and so on.
Does there tend to be 2 sales per category a year, generally speaking?
I would say generally, yes. Sometimes too. I mean, I'm just now speaking about New York sales. I'm assuming that most of your clients are based in the Americas. We also have sales in Hong Kong and London and Paris and Geneva. And so if, the New York sale is not right, but you really need something to go soon, maybe there will be a London sale or a Hong Kong sale or a Paris sale next. That could be a good fit. But then you have to think about some complexities there with currencies and tariffs and shipping, and so. But we can guide you through that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So Joey, I've got a last question for you. If someone is coming and they're not sure about using an auction house or if it's the right fit, a few words of advice if a family is in that position.
Please feel free to reach out and give me a call regardless. I love to get the call and happy to help however I can. And if it's not for us, we can certainly recommend other people.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that, Joey, I want to say thank you so very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. For all of those listening, I hope you found this conversation enlightening and you learned a little bit of something about the auction houses and about Christie's and the process. So with that, if anyone has any questions, if you want to reach out to Joey or hear their podcast, please see the show notes. We're going to link to, of course, the podcast. Joey, do you have a LinkedIn page that we can reach you at?
Joey Quigley, Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So we'll put all of that in the show notes. Joey, again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and look forward to running into you at another industry event.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me today on the Family Office Success Podcast. I hope you found this conversation insightful and valuable as you navigate the complexities of family office services. If you're looking for more ideas or resources or want to explore how we can support your family office or your family through services and training and strategy, connect with me on LinkedIn or visit our website at whiteriverconsultants.com, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates and expert insights. And if you're ready to take your family office to the next level, consider joining our mastermind where we can help you manage that chaos and create better outcomes for the families you serve. Until next time, I'm Christi Van Rite, and this has been the Family Office Success Podcast. Take care and keep building for the future.